Hey there everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents, the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm very happy to bring you issue number 41, the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott. And a huge fan of this character. I love all the Green Lantern characters, honestly. But this guy is really cool, and what you have to bear in mind when you're watching this is the original Green Lantern, created in the 1940s, long before Hal Jordan was even a concept. This guy was around. Hal Jordan and all the Green Lanterns that have come after him were based around this character. He's the archetype. And I'm still a huge fan of this character, even with the whole New 52 reboot at DC, which overall I'm not a huge fan of. I think it was a huge mistake. I honestly don't know what they were thinking when they did it. I still really dig Alan Scott and the New Earth 2. And the whole gay issue isn't an issue for me. I really don't think it's a big deal. Again, I don't understand the motivation behind it. It seems sort of like a stunt on DC's part, but it doesn't affect his character at all. He's still an awesome hero and one of my favorites, but this magazine, this figure, is based off of the original 1940s to, well, the old current Golden Age Green Lantern Alan Scott, not the new rebooted Alan Scott, so keep that in mind when we're covering the magazine, which we'll do first, which will cover everything you need to know about this character up until, well, the reboot, basically, and then we'll look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. A big fan of this figure as well. It's really, really great. Can't wait for you to see it. Sit back, relax, please enjoy issue number 41 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott. First up, the character section. And Alan Scott is unique among the Green Lanterns. Not only is he the first Green Lantern long before they had established that there was a Corps or even Hal Jordan, his powers were derived from a meteorite that had crash-landed here on Earth thousands of years before in China that was known as the Star Heart. After successfully carving the meteorite into a Chinese lantern, Chang was attacked by the townspeople who believed he was already some sort of sorcerer, and once they saw the eerie green flame of the lantern, they attacked and killed him. Jump ahead a few centuries, and the lantern somehow finds its way into Gotham City in a dumpster bin outside of Arkham Asylum. Jump ahead a few more years to 1940, and we find a young Alan Scott taking a train across country to pursue his engineering degree at a university when he gets a sudden compulsion to visit one of the boxcars on the train. Alan found that the ring possessed only two known weaknesses to him. The first was that he needed to recharge the ring every 24 hours by touching it to the lantern, and the second weakness was that it couldn't affect anything that was made out of wood. The next couple of pages talk about life after becoming the Green Lantern for Alan Scott. We find that while in college he switched degrees from engineering to broadcasting and became president of the radio station WXYZ. He was also a founding member of the very first team of superheroes ever, the Justice Society of America. We also learn about the loves of his life. The first was a woman known as Rose. And apparently, having a thing for bad girls, Alan would later marry the reformed criminal that was the original Harlequin. Alan was eventually called back into service as the Green Lantern when the new Green Lantern, who was part of a whole corps of Green Lanterns, came calling for his help. Not too long after this, the Lantern Starheart actually merged with Alan Scott, and he began to call himself Sentinel. The last couple of pages bring us up to speed with the character, at least at the time of this publication. We see him having to do battle with his own son, Obsidian, after Obsidian is corrupted by the villain known as Ian Karkle. A few months later, he would lose his daughter Jade in the Rann-Thanagar War. Fortunately for Alan, the dark times wouldn't last, and the Justice Society of America would reform. Next, we look at a couple of Alan's classic storylines. First up, the JSA, issues 7 through 9. And this is the storyline where Alan Scott finds himself having to fight his own son, Obsidian, after Obsidian succumbs to the same mental disorder that plagued his villainous mother, Thorn, also known as Rose. Unfortunately, the evil began to win in Obsidian, and it was pushed even further when another villain known as Ian Karkle began to manipulate and corrupt him even further. In the end, Alan was forced to kill his own son after Obsidian tried very hard to kill him. It's a very moody, deep, and a very difficult story for Alan Scott especially. We also have Green Lantern, Brightest Day, Blackest Night. And this is a classic story retold with a modern spin. It's the retelling, basically, of the first time Alan Scott, Green Lantern, encountered Solomon Grundy, who was one of his arch-villains back in the day. We find the Nazis are trying to invade the U.S. secretly in the 1940s. One of their planes crash lands in the swamps just outside of Gotham City, and Alan Scott is on the scene to find out what in the world just happened. And he encounters this character, Solomon Grundy. They sort of tussle, and Alan Scott takes on Nazis as well as Solomon Grundy. It's a really fun story, beautifully illustrated. It has a really fun ending that I don't want to spoil for you because you should really pick it up and check it out. Alan's Allies and Enemies section features a really good shot of fellow JSAer The Flash, Jay Garrick. And finally, the Original Thinking section continues the DC timeline with Part 32, Into the West. In 500 BC, we learn of a race of people who call themselves the Zeans, a tall, albino, almost emotionless-like race, who turn out to be descendants from ancient Atlantis. We also learn in 343 BC that a time-displaced Aquaman ended up coming to the aid of the Hellenes, Spartans, and Athenians when the Persians tried to invade the region. Here is the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott. The original, the first, the one that started it all, that inspired the whole Green Lantern concept. And I was drawn to this character when I was a little kid growing up. I actually have an autographed trading card of this figure with Bill Finger's autograph on it, if you can believe that or not. And I always was just drawn to this guy, and I love this figure. I think it's a great representation overall. I do have problems with it. It's not without its flaws, that's for sure. You know, overall though, it's really, really nice. I especially love the cloak. I love that huge high collar. I love the two-tone on it. The fact that the inside of the cape is this nice lime green, I would call it. And then the color on the inside of the collar is actually a slightly deeper green. And then the rest of the cloak, the back of the cloak, is that nice kind of glossy black. And all of the little folds and creases in it are all really nicely sculpted. It's great. And it's a nice detail also on the back. You can see where his hand is gripping it and bunching the cape right there, giving that really great effect of it blowing behind him. There's all the creasing, and that's why you can actually see his fingers, the outline of his fingers there in the cloak. It's just great little flourishes, little touches like that that make this figure, in my opinion, really, really nice. One of the best. It's a really nice face sculpt. Dig the hair, another blonde. It's nice to see blonde heroes every once in a while. I love the rope on the cloak. I mean, just really nice. The logo's nice, everything, all the way down to the boots. Really, really great details. As I said, not without its problems, which I'll touch on here in the next section with some better pictures. The Golden Age Green Lantern Alan Scott stands atop the DC logo, and the underside of his base features his name and serial number. First up, a quick shot of him along with the other two Green Lanterns released so far, Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. And also a nice group shot with the rest of the Justice Society of America. Now, as I've already said, I'm a very big fan of this character, and I really do like this figure a whole lot. That being said, it is not without its flaws, and it has a very, very major flaw that I'm going to address in just a second. But first, we have to start, of course, with the good. I really do like the pose. The pose, I think, is great. It's dynamic. It's iconic. It's based off of the artwork by Alex Ross. I love the colors and the paint scheme. It's superbly pulled off here. I love the different shades of green. I love the red of his shirt. The boots are really, really nice as well. Fantastic details in those. Love the shading. Love the yellow bands wrapping around, all the way around. Love the lime green on the inside of the cape with the green on the pants, as I said. There's also really great detail on the belt. It's that thick leather belt. You can see the notches in it. It has that nice big gold buckle, and you can actually see where the belt overlaps itself right there. It's a very nice detail. I do like the logo, but it is a decal, so it gets negative points for that. However, much like the Sinestro core figure before him, and Guy Gardner to a degree, this would have been an especially hard logo to hand paint. It would have been nice to see it stenciled, but I guess I can sort of forgive it. I love the cloak, the way it's blowing around, the way his one fist is clenching it, the details of the fingers through the cloak, I think are really spectacular and show off just how much time was put into this sculpt. On the flip side as well, the hand that's holding on the inside is really nicely detailed too. The ring, although not perfect, it's at least not just a plain old blob of paint. They tried to sort of make it look like the lantern ring, where it's higher up on his finger and, you know, sort of has a ridge there. So they did something at least. The head sculpt on this, though, is absolutely fantastic. I love the tassels on the cloak with the rope across holding it together. Love the collar of the shirt, and his face is great. I love the broad chin. The mask is awesome. I love that little mask. It's perfect. I like the hair, the shading, and as I said, the inside of the green on the inside of that cloak there is a slightly darker shade than the lime green on the inside of the cape part of the cloak. So just nice details, little things that I really, really dig. The wrinkles in the shirt and the pants and all that stuff. It's really nice overall. The bad, here we go. And as I said, they're sort of nitpicky. The logo is a decal, so that's automatically a negative in my book, even though, as I said, it would have been a very hard logo to do. It also gets a little bit of a negative point for the ring. They tried, so they get points for that, but it's still, you know, once you've seen the Guy Gardner one, this one, it's just still sort of a glob. Also, my figure has some scrapes in the paint on the ring hand as well. Came that way. I'm cool with it. Again, it shows it's hand painted. Here's the biggest flaw of this figure, and I am shocked it made it through. It's baffling to me. His cape and cloak, whatever you want to call it, it should be purple. It's black. I don't know how this happened. I don't know what they were thinking. It has never, to my knowledge, been black. Ever. Ever. It should be purple. It should be not like a lilac purple necessarily, but I mean, they could have done like a Joker sort of purple, like the Joker figure, a deeper purple if they wanted to on this. Both the mask and the cloak should be purple. Go back and look at the magazine section again. Every single picture of him, purple cape. That's the major flaw in this figure, and I don't understand how it happened. So Eaglemoss, shame on you for that. The ugly. Really nothing ugly about the figure aside from the fact that the cloak is the wrong color. There's nothing breakable on him, nothing weak about him. He's a solid figure, and as I said, overall, I really, really, really love him. I really do. Looking past the cape thing, everything else about him is spot on perfect. And he looks great with the JSA, he looks great with the rest of the Green Lanterns. It's just a dynamic figure that I think is really, honestly, a must-have. It's also really nice to have him, if for no other reason than to put him on the shelf next to Hal Jordan, because it's like having the genesis of the Green Lantern character. I'm a big fan of concept characters like the Ralph McQuarrie Star Wars figures they came out with a few years back, where you could get the original concept artwork of the classic characters like a white armored Boba Fett, just so you could have that original intention of the figure. This is sort of the same thing. Alan Scott was the original idea of Green Lantern, and Hal Jordan was based around that original concept, around this original character. So it's great to have him for that reason. So I'm fond of this figure for a lot of different reasons. I think he's a must-have. And I hope you haven't minded me rambling on and on too much. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys stay tuned for a quick teaser of the next issue in the line. We're going back into villain territory with the next one. This guy came into prominence after the whole death of Superman during the whole reign of the Superman storyline. It should be pretty interesting, so stay tuned for that. As always, I am your host, the MonkeyBoy, aka J.O.'s Friends. Thanks for watching.